that all of our presenters are here and ready to go. It's my great pleasure to introduce this new section on comprehensive case management and services and supports for participants. It's my great pleasure to introduce Ms. Elisa Rubini, who's the main author of Case Care Management Curriculum for the Inter-American Drug Abuse Control Commission of the Organization of American States, and has over 15 years of experience working with international and civil society organizations in the field of drug policy, alternatives to incarceration, recovery, and social integration of persons with substance use disorder. Ms. Rubini is a representative of the Foundation to the United Nations, has served as international consultant to the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, serves as a drug expert for the European Commission, and as a board member for the Vienna Committee on Narcotic Drugs. Welcome, Ms. Rubini, and please introduce your panel.
Thank you so much, Dennis, for the introduction. And I have the pleasure to moderate this panel with distinguished colleagues. And we have Grace Froese, Director of the Edmonton Drug Treatment Court Service. We have Valerie Cochrane, Coordinator of the Newfoundland and Labrador Drug Treatment Court in St. John. And we also have Rudy Rivera, Case Manager at the Drug Treatment Court of Ottawa. Without further ado, I will go forward and introduce Grace Froese as a long-standing career through the Alberta Justice and Solicitor General and Alberta Services, working with the criminal justice system and people with substance use disorder. Grace is currently employed by the Edmonton Judge Howard Society as a director of the Edmonton Drug Treatment Court Service. And she also serves in the board of the Canadian Association of Drug Treatment Court Professional and is involved with the International Association of Treatment Courts. We had the pleasure at CCAD to be working with her on training and development of drug courts internationally. So Grace is currently working in the partnership with Alberta Justice and Solicitor General, and she's responsible for the development and training of new provincial drug treatment court programs in Alberta. And today she will elaborate on case care management approaches, utilizing multidisciplinary and multisystemic teams, as well as highlighting the key fact on expansion of the drug treatment courts development in Alberta, and also addressing the rural and urban delivery of integrated case management. It's a pleasure to have you, Grace. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Elisa, and thank you so much just for having me as part of this panel. It's an honor to present with Valerie and with Rudy and yourself, and just to be able to speak about case management support strategies, and I'm going to focus a little bit on the initially, just to set the stage for this, the collaborative case management approaches, utilizing multidisciplinary and multisystemic teams. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about the provincial drug treatment court development and expansion in Alberta and in the context of case management, with a focus on rural versus urban, because throughout this expansion, when it comes to case management specifically, that is one area that a lot of adaptation is required in rolling this out. So those are the areas that I do want to focus on today. And I know that Valerie is going to speak to the needs, the assessment process a little bit later, and Rudy is going to speak to the mechanics of case management. So I'm going to try not to impose on what they're going to present. Just focusing more on the collaborative case management approaches. And so the multi-system involvement as a result of like this cascading use of services that's being coordinated and managed to meet individual participant needs within these existing services. You know, you have your income and benefit supports, health services, including the addictions and mental health treatments, social and life skills services that include your family and community development. And of course, what we're finding is many of the participants, say, of a drug treatment court or any kind of specialized court, are accessing a lot of these services separately, right? So when you have this collaborative case management process in a support service program, all those components are coming together for that individual. And that is probably the biggest piece that we are learning through the case management supports, that collaboration of those services is cost effective and it's much more beneficial for the individuals accessing them. I just have to make a mention. I was listening to Dr. Harvey speak on the FASD coordination just prior to this session. And part of my career years ago with Alberta Justice was working with the FASD initiatives in Alberta. So I'd heard Dr. Harvey speak multiple times. And, you know, she made mention of all the hoops that people have to go through in order to obtain the services, and how that can be so trying. And we do find that in every area, especially with this vulnerable population that is accessing these services. There's so many hoops and so many, it seems like, roadblocks in place for them to access that. And we do find that in many ways. However, in the process of this collaboration through these multidisciplinary teams and the multisystemic resources, it does work so much better for the individuals that need to access them. And so the case management strategies that we use, also the multidisciplinary teams that within the existing justice systems, you know, these structures provide key supports in the form of judiciary, court services, crown prosecutors, duty counsel, probation, supervision services. And so this is what is coming together in these case management process. Now, the collaborative case management also allows for flexibility in case plans and creates a greater opportunity for success by doing this. And I'm going to touch a little bit on this exactly. Mothers with children, you know, residential treatment that actually allows children to reside with their mothers. It's in the best interest of both the mother and the children. A lot of Indigenous participants who want to focus on their culture and spirituality while working on their recovery. Case planning is tailored to culturally specific programs and therapists that will enable this growth and opportunity. So keeping that in mind in that structure and in that piece, we work with a phase case management process. And so the structure, the recovery process, the incremental progress is so important in that process. The stabilization, acute, clinical, pro-social habitation, adaptive, and the maintenance help for a clearer understanding of progression in this case management process. And I know Rudy will speak to those pieces more in detail. So that's basically I was setting the stage for all these processes coming together. And so in that context, I want to just explain a little bit about what has been happening in Alberta with our provincial drug court expansion. I'm very proud of this. I'm personally very proud to be involved in something like this. I've worked with the Ministry of Alberta Justice Solicitor General for the majority of my career, and then 8 years ago I switched to not-for-profit, and I now am the director of the Edmonton Drug Treatment Court under the direction of the Edmonton John Howard Society. It's been amazing. The vision and values align, and we're able to put forward these drug treatment court programs provincially. And I'm honored that I get to be a part of this, and having worked both sides, the government side and the not-for-profit side, and really recognizing the value of those partnerships and how we can work together. And so this, throughout this provincial drug court expansion, for those of you that don't know, there's established guidelines and standards within this framework of the drug courts in Alberta that align with a model of service delivery that is community resource integrated and that promotes the implementation of best practice standards that are consistent on a provincial level and responsive to each community's unique needs and circumstances. So that's really the premise of this. Now, our standards and principles that have been established provincially are in line with the Canadian Association of Drug Court Professionals, those standards and principles that were established. So it really, the trickle down effect of that is amazing. I truly believe, even as we are rolling out the new treatment courts in the province, that we're doing so while still upholding these standards and principles. Very, very important. So currently, we have 6 drug treatment courts operating in Alberta, with the anticipated startup of a 7th in 2022. Under the guidelines and standards, it's created a necessity of a variance in service delivery to accommodate the rural communities where many services may be limited. And this brings me to the rural versus urban, basically. So we've had, in Alberta, we've had 2 longstanding courts, Edmonton and Calgary, and we have since expanded to 4 smaller cities in the province. And through this process, we are still, there's multiple systems that, you know, create opportunity for expansion of the services, and programs can be accessed in many different ways. So we're having to adapt. And as most of you know that are involved with the drug treatment court, when it comes to case management, we are looking at every avenue that's available to us in the community, and there is so many. In the larger cities, at least for us, we've been very fortunate. We have strong partnerships with so many community organizations and agencies, Alberta Health Services. And we work very closely with our probation services, so it works really well. So now when we're developing these same teams and developing the case management in the smaller cities, and when I'm talking smaller cities, I'm talking, you know, 50,000 to 100,000 populations. So many of the cities will have services, but limited access. Things that can, psychological services can be limited, psychiatric services, access to that can be limited. So this case management team really needs to focus on partnerships and building these relationships. Thankfully, through COVID, it's open, clearly based on what we're doing here, it's opened up the world of virtual. And how amazing is that? Because that has really expanded the opportunity for growth in the smaller cities. And so where you may not have all the services that you would normally have available to you, you can access them virtually. And so what we have to look at in urban communities is, can the services be built that are not there at the current time? So there's many programs that are part of case management for a drug treatment court specific program. Criminal and addictive thinking, one of the biggest aspects, of dealing with that, the addiction behind the crimes, but also many, especially the long-standing offenders, often it is about being addicted to the criminal lifestyle and addressing those specific programs. So we have found that virtually many of these programs can be run by people in other cities. Treatment does not have to happen, especially residential treatment does not have to happen in your community, in the local community. It can happen in other cities. We will send people to treatment centers outside of their community, because while they are in residential treatment, the whole idea is you want them to focus on their recovery and focus on establishing that platform, then bringing them back into the community where they are attending court weekly, doing their probation updates, doing their case management updates, and following their programs, and expanding on that in the community. Some of the issues that can be relevant, and thus, we have to be a little bit creative about how we do this, is participants who get into a drug treatment court program will often come in with a lot of street debt. And so they'll have this street debt as a result, of course, being in the drug world, and in a smaller city that creates a lot more risk. There's more issues around that because everyone knows everyone. So we're learning to look at what is going to work best for someone in a smaller community. For many of them, the pressures and influences, once they do get into recovery, graduate from the drug court program and they want to get on with life. For some, it's very difficult because they've been so entrenched in the drug community, and helping them to look at, do you want to relocate to another city? How do you want your life to look as you're going forward in recovery? And keeping in mind that in your community is also could be your neighbor down the street who was your drug dealer, and there's just so many aspects that we are finding we need to address and we need to look at. Another thing is limited recovery housing in the smaller cities. That can often be an issue, and we're finding even they're becoming more creative, where we've had one manager who approached a local real estate agent and said, someone that is willing to rent out rooms, has a house, rent out rooms that to people who are in recovery, and knowing that they're in recovery, they're being supervised, they're being monitored, because there just isn't a lot of standardized recovery housing currently. Now, as the drug courts are opening up in these cities, though, people are starting to step up and go, oh, okay, once they understand what it is, once they understand what's all involved, those avenues are starting to open up a little bit more. But there is other areas, even in the smaller communities. What is great too, we have very strong police presence, whether it's local police, whether it's RCMP, and that really helps with monitoring and supervision. It's everyone knows everyone, so a local police is generally going to know who's involved in drug court, and if they're out and about, monitoring seems to be more accessible in these smaller communities versus in the larger cities. That's not always the option. So there is so many different ways that we can adapt. Fortunately, with the expansion of drug treatment court programs in Alberta, we have a budget aligned for treatment, a budget established, so that if the services are not existing in the community that the participants need, there is a budget that we can have, contract someone locally, a therapist, a psychologist, to offer these services so that they are readily available for the participants. And that is what has really made this work. This whole collaboration has come together beautifully because of that. So that is, there is other things. There's, there are challenges that we face with the courts, but I also think there's a lot more benefits in a larger city because people want to be involved and they see the benefit of this to their community, to having these court programs, having a community agency involved delivering the services. So there's so many benefits that are brought to the table with this. And I don't want to go into a lot more because I know when it comes to the assessments, and when Valerie speaks to that, and Rudy also, the mechanics of the case management, I think they do look the same overall, but there is variances. The beauty of a drug treatment court program and beauty of any specialized court programs is that they're adaptable. And although they are guided by the structure, they're guided by these standards and principles, there is this ability to adapt to meet individual needs. And I'm just a very strong believer in what we're doing and the services that we're delivering. And of course, the outcomes that we're seeing as a result of this are beyond, it's just beyond unbelievable how people's lives are changing as a result of this type of work. So I'm going to leave it at that for now, and we will, we can always come back to this if we need to. But thank you so much for listening. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Grace, for your marvelous presentation. And I invited the participants to send us questions. We will have a moment for question and answer at the end of the three presentation, but please feel free to use the question and answer button on your Zoom screen while the presenters are speaking so that we can coordinate and address the question in the dedicated time. I'm presenting now our second speaker, Valerie Cochrane. She is the coordinator of the Newfoundland and Labrador Drug Treatment Court in the pilot in St. John. In 2018, she was seconded by the Department of Justice and Public Safety in Newfoundland to develop and implement the pilot in St. John's. And now she holds the dual role of being responsible for the expansion of the DTC in other provincial centers. And her expertise in the Justice and Special Treatment Courts were gained through her position with the Newfoundland Legal Aid Commission as Risk Assessment Officer and with the Family Violence Intervention Court. And she's going to elaborate today on the risk assessment. So Valerie, the floor is yours.
Thank you, everybody. First of all, I want to probably apologize if in advance. We're going through some inclement weather here in St. John's, and it might play havoc with my power. So if by chance I lose power during my presentation, hopefully we won't, it will be distributed afterwards for everybody to have a look at. And also my mic might pick up some like the snow plows or the high winds, so I have to apologize for that. Other than that, I want to lead into the assessment piece by giving just a little background on our court. We are relatively new in comparison to most federally funded drug treatment courts, in that we were established in 2018 and took our first participants in 2019. And we average about 10 active participants at any given time. As Grace talked about, and Rudy will talk about, and actually most of the presentations in the last couple of days, we all have some very common threads and common ideas that are weaving together, which I'm really happy to hear. So you'll hear me talk about some things you might have heard yesterday, some of the things that Grace has said, some of the things that Rudy might say, but it is kind of part and parcel, I think, to all the work that we do. So as Grace said, we are bound by standards, and one of them is we have to have an interdisciplinary team. And we have a relatively small team, I think. We have our judge, who is also he's the lead judge in our mental health court, but he's also the chair of our team. We have federal and provincial crowns, and we have one of each, and they are the sole assigned crowns to our court. So we don't have rotating crowns coming through. We have two legal aid defense counsel who represent everybody who's in the court. Same thing, same lawyers for everybody. And then we have drug treatment court services, and that's myself as the coordinator and the risk assessment person, and our addiction specialist who does our treatment intervention and the majority of our case management. So one of the things that we have been able to adapt from other courts and watching the development is we implemented harm reduction and trauma-informed practices into as much as we can in our court. So both of us in drug treatment court services are trained in both, and all of our team are either educated in or exposed to or trained in harm reduction and trauma-informed principles. So to give an example of that, of how we've done it, we have two major ones that we implemented. The first is we do have a process where abstinence isn't the only goal, that people have the goal of improved health, reduced drug use to enhance community stability, and not necessarily having to meet all the criteria for graduation. They can complete the court and be sentenced with the goals that they have set. The other, and it's one that I brought in right when we were doing it, because we do our own drug screening, is we don't do observed screening. So that we've worked our processes and protocols around that, but it's a harm reduction and trauma-informed practice around our drug screening that we implemented from the start. So as our team, so sometimes you might hear me talk about our team and drug treatment court services. So our team is referencing our court team, and drug treatment court services is our treatment team. So everyone on our team individually in their respective roles and collectively as the team are responsible for the case management of our participants. So that kind of, it will play out as I get further in on how we do that. But our drug treatment court services team, our primary responsibility is the assessment, treatment, case management, and referral in connection to our other community resources. I wanted to get into the screening assessments. I don't recommend assessments. I don't pick. I don't say choose this one over that one. I'm going to go through the ones that we use, and we drew on the recommendation that we use a risk need responsivity factor assessments as our screening for eligibility into the court, and also to give us an idea of the needs that people are bringing into the court. So we use two. We use the LSCMI. Some people may know the language around that, but it's the level of service case management inventory, and the drug abuse screening test, or the DAST. The DAST is a really quick screening inventory of a person's drug use, the types of drug they're using, how long they're using, the interference with their general daily living. And we're using it generally just to gather a picture of what's going on in a person's life. So it's basically an overview of their current and past drug use, as well as their attempts at or what types of intervention they have participated in the past. It helps guide our case management, but it also gives us a picture of how long a person has been involved in drug use and how much it's interfering currently. The LSCMI is from people who don't know it, is from the level of service assessment instruments. They were developed and widely used in correction, but developed by doctors Don Andrews, James Bonta, and Stephen Warmuth, and they're based on the three principles of risk, need, responsivity. And I've kind of oversimplified it to say risk is basically the determining the likelihood based on a number of factors that a person will continue to be involved in the criminal justice system. So it's and the recommendation then is you match the level of intervention to the level of risk. So simply, you don't put people who are low risk into high intensity programming, and you don't put high intensity or high need individuals in low intensity programs. Neither one of them meet the needs of the individual. The other thing I like about the LSCMI is it starts to paint a picture or draw out the needs and factors that a person brings into the court, both their strengths and the needs that can be addressed while they're attending the program. And that those pieces also lead into what we include in the person's case management plan. And finally, the responsivity piece is the piece that I like most, is you maximize a person's ability to stay in the court or in the program by tailoring their intervention to their individual strengths and needs, their motivation. So, you know, as a person comes in the court and we have an idea of where they're and how they're presenting, we tailor how we approach their kind of entrance into the court, what our case management plans and treatment plans would look like, and how they can change over time. Our assessment process, as with most, is done at the beginning, and we do it right from application. So an application is filed in our court, and right away the person enters into the assessment phase. It can be short if the person is able to attend and is able to get through the assessment. It can be an hour-and-a-half meeting, or we can extend it over time depending on the needs of the individual. For us, it's the first opportunity to meet and engage individuals past their appearance in the court, and to develop the rapport and engagement that they need. Because Drug Treatment Court Services does the assessment and then the intervention, it's really that connection starts from the beginning. So we've had occasionally, I don't do much of the counseling, but we've had occasionally where a person during that phase will have developed much more engagement or rapport with me, and I may take them on as a client, whereas our addictions specialist does most of the intervention. So the assessment is really a biopsychosocial, I use the terms, related type interview to gather as much information as we can from the individual. We are not really concerned about accuracy. So if somebody says, you know, I have 10 previous charges, which is part of the assessment, we don't care if it's actually 40 or 3. What we're looking for is the information that they will give us so that we can get a sense of the individual coming in. We try to be as flexible as possible during the assessment. And with the recognition that some of our actively using clients have a lot of difficulty coming into assessments and participating in a lengthy assessment process. So we adjusted accordingly. And the whole idea is to give our team then a picture of the strengths and needs that each individual is bringing into the court. Of equal importance to this, because we tend to talk a lot about, the benefits to the court and reports and assessments and what they can do and what information they can give us, but it's also an opportunity for the applicants to get a better idea of how different a drug treatment court is and how different our approach and our case management is. So it provides an opportunity for them to meet us. We're all of us are consistent team right throughout. It's a 12 to 18 month program. So right from the start, they are meeting the people who are going to be in their lives throughout the process. And it allows the relationship building that is really important when we continue on with our treatment and case management. And it also allows us to, at times, address critical issues that are coming in right away. And, I always like to speak by example, but we had one young woman came in who had just found out she was pregnant and she was IV drug using, and we set her up with Suboxone right at assessment. We didn't wait for her to enter the court, make it formal in the case management or anything like that. We did it right away so that one of her issues could be addressed whether or not she came into our court. And the other is quite often we will have people who, we have one individual, I would use him as an example too, whose level of drug use affected he actually thought he had cognitive impairment and he couldn't remember anything. So therefore he wasn't going to be able to participate in the court. So during the assessment, we found out that he was a polysubstance user with such a variety of drugs, we wouldn't know where to start. So we asked him to see if he could reduce some of his drug use through this assessment process so we could get an idea of, was this going to be something that he could do, or was it something that we would have to refer him maybe onto mental health court or some other process? So he agreed to that. We extended his assessment over a number of weeks. He was able to reduce his use, and funnily enough, surprisingly enough to him, his memory improved, his ability to make decisions improved, and we were able to take him into the court and then move him on into the treatment and everything that he wanted to do. So it kind of gave us, at the assessment phase for both of them, it gave us an opportunity to engage right away, develop some rapport, and then adjust our processes to the needs of the clients that were coming in. So not surprisingly, given all that, our assessments, whichever one we use a narrative, relaxed approach, conversational, gathering of information, and it really lays out for us the complexities of the lives of the individuals who are coming into our court. Grace touched on a number of factors of that. Most, if not all, of our clients are disconnected from all other community resources. They're well known within the justice system for breaches and failure to comply, let alone behavioral issues in court and in institutions. But we have the approach that we take is we're meeting you as you are today. We're not paying attention to your history. The assessment is about what's going on in your life today. And so our priorities coming from assessment into case management is usually like housing, finances, health, and daily living. If we can't get some of that stabilized, the rest of the process is really not going to follow. The next step is helping them to address their drug use. So again, that enhances their community stability, their daily living, their health, and finances. And then we can address the other factors that keep them in connection with the justice system. One of the ones that have come out of that is people who have been shoplifting a lot to support their drug use find that even now that their drug use is reduced or stopped, they're still shoplifting. So then we do a shoplifting program with them. Most of it is helping the clients prioritize through assessment what they want to address in court, in keeping with the drug treatment court guidelines. We don't have somebody coming in and says, I want to go into family counseling to address my, children's issues, because that's not the group that we, excuse me for a second. That's not the group that we deal with. So then what we do with our assessments, we present a comprehensive report to the team, because as I said before, our team in court is actually overseeing and supervising the case management of our clients. We address compliance issues, if we want to call them. We address treatment issues. We address housing, finances, all in court and all as a part of our team. So I'll give an example of that. We have a person coming into the court who had an extensive number of fines, and our judge actually presented her the information on how to address her fines, got her the information for the fine program and who to contact, and presented to her in court. For us in drug treatment court services, we might be giving them information on how to get involved with family court if they need to do that. The crowns are involved in providing, we have one crown provide information on the treatment services in central Newfoundland, because the person might have gone to that program and was a little bit concerned about it, but she had some familiarity with it having come from there. So she presented the information to the person in court. It flows a lot better than I'm making it sound, actually. So while the assessments are necessary and they are, I know they give us the foundation that we need, I always think of, what it must be like for our participants or our clients, our potential clients, coming in and being asked such a wide variety of questions about their lives. They've been through a lot before, so some of them just have the rope, give the answers, don't give a whole lot of detail around it. They know to give information that we might be looking for, that sort of thing. But that's not our purpose really in assessments. That's our secondary purpose. Our first purpose is to get people who are really disconnected from every element and have had negative experiences with most of the services that they have been involved with, to get them in and get them connected. We can always add and change the information from the assessments. So my final line is to remember that. Most people, we've heard that through the last couple of days, that the clients who are coming into, like especially a drug treatment court, are really used to resources turning them away. They're very used to being dismissed from resources, dismissed from other programs, difficulty in court. They're used to all of that. So our assessment process and then our case management process is to also hopefully change that experience for them. So my line of saying, it's not the information that we gather, it's how we gather the information that counts. And then everything else will come from that. Tools you can pick on your own. I keep telling people, when I started the implementation, the research on tools to use was vast. And we just eliminated it down to the things that we needed. So from engagement, from assessment, rapport that develops is actually what will work best in case management and leads to basically referral on to the other resources and the chances that people will stay engaged in the whole process. So I lead on to Rudy from here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Valerie. I was about to say that you have a few minutes to wrap it up, but you did it by yourself. So thank you so much for being so respectful of the time allocated. Now we have our last speaker, Rudy Rivera, which is a case manager in the Drug Treatment Court of Ottawa for the last 13 years. And he has worked in outreach as a counselor with street-involved youth and in patient setting under the UNICEF mandate in Central America. And he's gonna present today on the mechanics of case management. So Rudy, the floor is yours. You are still muted.
Thank you, Elisa. I always do that. Thanks so much for the opportunity. This has been a great forum for me over the years, and I learned so much. So I'm quite honored to be able to share some of our experience in Ottawa. I think that over the years we've done great work. We have great successes, and we have also had some setbacks, and so I wanted to share some of the experience and give you an idea of the more of the hands-on stuff, like very mechanics of case management and what it's involved. Like I said, I'll be speaking about the services and supports today. Hopefully I can do some justice in 15 minutes to what we do. Before I get into that, I just wanted to briefly talk about the goals of case management for us. Focus on three areas. The first area is obviously addressing the substance taking behavior of participants. Most of our clients have been using for many years. So for us, that's sort of one of the main focuses. But one of the things we've seen over the years also is that just focusing on substance use for the clientele we serve is not enough. And Valerie was talking a bit about that, and Grace, on how some of the entrenched sort of thinking and behavioral patterns really are at the core of our work, right? And so sort of helping clients navigate through those and come up with new ways of being and new ways of tackling risk and moving away from the maladaptive coping mechanisms. So the second area focuses on criminogenic needs, on a lot of criminal thinking. In my view, I don't think that's for the clientele we serve. The delivery of substance use treatment is enough. It's got to have the two components, and that they have to be level in a way. The clients also address these other behavioral risks and can move on to live better lives. The third area of case management focuses on improving quality of life and increasing, functioning and enhancing sort of areas of life satisfaction that sometimes have been lacking for many years. So those are the treatment goals, the primary treatment goals, right? And I'll speak a bit about admission, and Grace has really expanded on that. In the admission process, I just wanted to say that the admission process in our vision needs to be fast and fluid, right? Clients cannot be waiting for weeks for treatment. And that's one of the problems that we had over the years, even with residential treatment. Clients are ready, and when they're ready sometimes, or when they, even if they're not ready, but when they think that they want to try something, we have to be there for them. And what has happened for many years is that we refer them to residential treatment because we do intensive outpatient treatment here. Our clients are with us every day, but sometimes we do refer them to residential treatment to increase the intensity a little bit of their treatment, but they end up waiting 3 to 4 months. So in my view, that doesn't really make any sense. So the assessment process is fast. I'm really proud that we come to this point. Ottawa doesn't have a wait list. We don't wait. The moment we get the green light from the legal team, we move fast. The assessment is simple, it's fluid, and it's rapid. And it's within days, we're able to present with a recommendation and move fast on that treatment. The idea is just to potentiate that motivational state. Sometimes it's very basic, right? So we want to sort of build momentum and move fast when they are ready, or when they think they just come into a point where they're ready. So that I just wanted to mention that, and Valerie, I think you articulated that very well. And I just wanted to mention that. And then I just wanted to focus and give you an idea of what we've done over the years. Like I said, I think that we've been very successful in many areas, and we have great successes, but also some feedbacks. So all of our clients come with very, very pressing needs. So some of these needs are acute needs. They generally come from sort of custody, although they also come from outside custody. But one thing that is common, they come fairly ill, right? So we moved and at the initial stages of drug treatment court in Ottawa, I think that we were fairly proactive in attending to those needs. So what we did is we contracted the services of a nurse practitioner who was on site, and she would come every week to sort of see our clients. We actually had scheduled our releases in a way that they would see her right away. That was very, very, very effective. And I'm presenting this as a sort of a comprehensive model that can really, really make a big difference. The same was the case with mental health issues, right? Because many of our clients suffer from concurrent disorders. And they have fallen through the cracks over the years. Some of them don't have diagnosis. Some of them have never really had access to treatment. So we had a psychologist who would consult with the treatment team and who would speed the process of referrals to proper venues of treatment, particularly in the area of mental health, right? So that was a model that was really, really, really effective for us. And unfortunately, and I want to speak about this too, because I'm presenting this as the model. We ran this model for many years, and we had a setback. And that setback basically was the cuts in funding for us. It was very detrimental for us to maintain that model. And now in the present, we had to kind of improvise, and the work is much more difficult because clients have to wait longer periods to really get some help, right? So sometimes just even waiting for a medical checkup that is so necessary at the very early stages of treatment is a challenge. So our life has been more difficult, and obviously it's been way more difficult for our clients. But I did want to mention that because I think it's a model that works, and I've seen it working, right? That involves more resources and responsivity from our sources of funding. So we really tend to these needs because they're really urgent needs. Part of the work that we do, it's very intense work, is to really make sure that we meet the most essential needs of our clients. And many of our clients, they come homeless. They don't have really any basic support. And they come basically to start from scratch. They come from detention sometimes with nothing. So a big challenge for us is just to find housing. And look, at the beginning of the first years of treatment court in Ottawa, we had housing for our clients. We had 3 units. It was a beautiful model because we were contracted the services of these agencies who would give us units on an ongoing basis. And our clients would access these units right away. And that would buy us time to find suitable housing. So let's say our client was admitted yesterday. That client will come to live in one of these 3 residences that we had. And then that will give us time to find long-term housing. It was a beautiful model. and this is another setback that we had because there were cuts in funding that put us in a much more and difficult situations. And now we really have to move fast if we want that admission to be fluid. We have to really, you know, find housing that is suitable. It's imperative need that our clients don't go back to the old places, and if they can have a dignified place to live, well, we have to work on that. So that's a big effort. They also come with our social benefits. So a big work is just to secure their benefits, to reestablish their benefits. Also, we had at some point contracted the detox services because they're really important in early stages of treatment. And we got tired of waiting for a bed to come available. So we contracted the services of a 24 hours bed, and our clients access that bed at any point. We only had to call and request that bed. And that was a model that was really, really effective. And that went also with the cuts on our funding. But those detox services, they need to be there as a part of the, particularly at the early stages of recovery for our clients. In our program, we have access to food bank, and our food bank is run on site. That means our clients access that food bank on site every week, once a week. It's a wonderful resource, and our clients are able to really have basically their food budget met for the week. We're very lucky, and the food bank that they access is fairly generous, I would say, enough to cover their needs for the week. We also have a meal plan on site when our clients come, and this does not apply to the pandemic, although we're still here with our clients because they come to the agency, but it's not running the way it generally runs. Our clients come for their sessions, for the treatment. They come and have the breakfast. You know, they have snacks and they have a lunch because they have group in the afternoon and group in the morning and group in the afternoon. And they need, you know, they cannot be in group with an empty stomach. And it's been a really valuable support. We're not inpatient facility. We're outpatient intensive treatment. So we made this available, right? And we've been creative to really secure the services to our clients. And it's really, really, really important. A part of our programming also focuses on employment counseling and education upgrading. And this is another example in which we hired the services of an agency that specializes in employment skills. They help us to sort of plan particularly phase 2 activities in which our clients are getting out of the regular treatment programming and are moving into, you know, the community, right? And doing their thing in their community and sort of experiencing a sober life out there, facing risk and triggers out there in a safe way. And for that, they need meaningful activities, and employment is a big challenge. You know, they have a criminal record, and that it's not easy sometimes to find an activity that is suitable for phase 2. So this agency has been very instrumental in that process, and the model really, really works, right? So they move in through it, they can move in 3 areas, and they help us in those 3 areas, which are volunteering, education, upgrading, and employment. So our clients have access to that. That's an ongoing, as part of the programming. They have a group every week that is actually called Essential Skills, and it's employment, sort of employment counseling and readiness, and just getting prepared for phase 2. Our program also has a permanent social rec program. It's a wonderful program that runs every week. So every Friday, with exception of the pandemic time, obviously, because that has not been the case. We run the program every Friday. We go out for movies. We go out to the beach. We go out to the theaters. We go out to the museums. Sometimes we just do simple stuff. And it's a wonderful, wonderful program that brings everybody together. It brings counselors and clients together. And it's a tremendous resource. It's aimed at, sort of helping our clients to enjoy recovery and really experience sort of life in recovery and enjoying life, right? I think that in terms of the most significant sort of services that we offer and support systems, that is kind of at the core of what we do. I could talk for hours and hours about what we do. Really, there's so much to what we do. And I don't think that we have the time today. But I think that, if we're not able to have that security blanket for our clients and those support systems in place for them to thrive, this journey is much more difficult, and it's not only for them, but even for us who are always part of that mix, right? So I do believe in investing resources and really stepping up to the plate when it comes to putting things in place for our clients to really succeed in treatment, right? I've seen it for many years. I've seen many people. I still connect with many people who continue to be successful, who are not out there breaking the law, who are not out there, really sort of suffering. And I do believe in this program, and I do believe in really making a difference. I know I don't have much time, but before I go, I just want to leave you with a lighter aspect of case management, and because I met with one of our former clients this week, and he sort of asked me to spread the word. And if I can, I'm not sure if I can, but I played this video of a client who graduated at the beginning of the pandemic. And this is a client who struggled to get sober and struggled with in many aspects, but he found his way out. One of the big challenges for him was to learn to just to have fun, right? And see himself out of that pervasive using cycle and deal with boredom. So he asked me to play this video. I have all the permission, and if I can play that video, I will leave you with that. Just bear with me 1 second.
We are still seeing the PowerPoint, so probably you should close the PowerPoint to pop up the video, Rudy.
Oh, okay, thank you. I don't think it will happen today. Maybe next time I'll be able to play. It's a wonderful video of him actually doing DJing and it's really funny and it's really amazing, and he's just having fun. And he said, you know, like I was talking to him this week over a cup of coffee outside, and he was saying, you know, tell everybody how well I am doing, and I just wanted to sort of play that video for you today, but it won't happen. My apologies. Well, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Rudy. And I think that in the interest of the time, I'm going to sum up just some of the point. And I think that what you just mentioned, the success of the client, of the participant, is ultimately what motivates us all. So seeing the changes, seeing how functional they have, how they can socially reintegrate, I believe that's the measure of the success, and it's also the motor of the motivation between all the hard work. So thank you for highlighting some of the key aspects of the case management that you do. And we see that it's much more comprehensive. It's not just looking at the substance use aspect, but also at all the other needs of the client. And that reconnects on what Valerie was presenting on the importance of the risk assessment and all the tools that we have at our disposal, so that we can fine tune the intervention and address not just the needs, but also the strengths. So every participant is not 100% deficit. They do have strengths they can build upon. So identifying that early on help case management in tailoring the plan, which is not just the treatment, but is the treatment and service plan, to be as comprehensive as possible and offer the best to the client and accompany them through their recovery journey. And then leads us back to the aspect that Grace was mentioning, the importance of collaboration among the system and having the multi-system, the multi-sector approach where everybody is involved, but there is a level of coordination which is needed to make sure that they are all working in the interest of the client. And she also highlighted some lessons learned from the rural versus the rural setting, and how they can effectively collaborate in the interest of the client and finding way and opportunities either or in the community of origin or the new community where the social integration might occur or the treatment might occur, so that they can really be at the top and offering the best to the client. So with this said, I thank you all our panelists so very much. We are just 2 minutes overdue, and I turn back to Dennis for closing this session. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rubini. And for all our panelists on this session, we are going to lunch now. So enjoy your lunch, and we'll see you back at 1 o'clock.